everybody! So Shanleigh and I are back. It's the second video in a row.
Yep.
Both of us in it. And we are here to do the Coworker Picks My TBR wrap up. So a few months ago, I don't remember exactly.
Probably more than a few months ago.
A while ago.
It's been too long.
I recommended 5 books to Shanleigh for her to read. And to be honest, it's been so long that I didn't really remember which books I had recommended to her.
Fair. I could have made something up and you wouldn't have known.
Yeah, it's true. So she has read some of them, I presume, and she's gonna let me know what she thought. So let's just get into it.
I read none of the books.
Darn it.
No, okay. I ended up reading 4 of the 5. I thought for sure I could actually read all 5. And it didn't happen.
That's okay.
So sadly, the Hearts We Sold over here had to fall by the wayside. I do still want to read it, so I might just take this home tonight and just go for it on my own. But yeah.
Didn't get to it.
I'm sorry.
It's a good book, but some of these books are quite chunky, so, you know, that's my bad.
They all kind of were. They all kind of were, which is not a bad thing, but yeah, they all were.
Time consuming.
A little bit.
Alright, so what did you read?
Well, I think I'll just start with like the order I read them in. So first up, I was like, I gotta stop this drought now. So I started with A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which is about, I mean, I don't have to explain what this is about. Everybody else knows.
Yeah.
But real quick sum up, there's a magician from an alternate world, an alternate London, named Kel, and he gets into some really big trouble in regards to the other Londons, and sort of also wrangles in a really amazing female character whose name is
Lila Bard.
Lila Bard. I know. I remember.
She's great.
And they have to pretty much get this like terrible relic that's infecting all the other Londons back into the London that it properly deserved to be in. And yeah, dang, this book was good.
Yeah,
this was good. I mean, obviously, this is. I feel like everyone watching this is just like, yeah, obviously.
Well, I was worried because it's like an OwlCrate. Like we're kind of like, well, this is the first OwlCrate book ever. It was in our first box.
Did you say that in the last video?
I think I probably did mention that, but it is like
it's fine.
We mentioned it. Like we've talked about this book. We've kind of beating a dead horse at this point, but you know, it's great. I'm so happy you liked it.
It was so good. It was so well done. Even from the very beginning when I just kind of started reading it, the whole idea of like multiple Londons and like the parallel universe thing worked so effortlessly. Like she is a master of her craft, and I picked that up like right away. I know this is not her first book, but I think this was the one that made her big. Wasn't it?
That and this one in Vicious kind of.
Right, and I now really want to see what she does. Like this is pretty much like an epic fantasy and the first of a trilogy.
Yeah.
But now I'm really curious to see what she does with like the superhero genre, because that one is from the supervillain's perspective, right?
Yeah, I think you'd really like it.
Yeah, I think I definitely would. So I think I might pick up that one next, but I definitely will dive back into this and see, read the others in the series, but yeah, dang, she was good. Although, I just want to say real quick, I totally called the Lila Bard thing at the end. Which, can I say, is that a spoiler?
I think it's a spoiler.
Okay, I called it, alright? That's all I'm gonna say. From the moment that, like, her and Kel sort of, like, met up with each other, not so much, like, their tension, but obviously, like, their tension, I called that. But I called the big thing. That's sort of hinted at the end, but not, like, totally explicitly said. I called it.
I did not call that, so good job.
And then, I was, yeah, I called it.
Awesome.
I knew. Anyway.
So next up is...
The next one I ended up reading was Peter and Max by Bill Willingham, which is the book that's set within the Fables universe, which I adore the Fables universe, so I had high hopes for this. And it didn't disappoint me, but there was some odd pacing.
Right.
Summary. So this is about, it sort of takes place in 2 different timelines. It takes place in our timeline, but also in the timeline that happened previous to everything else in the story. Right. So the Fables world is pretty much a bunch of fairy tale characters that you would know are all real but existed in a separate world from our own. And they've had to flee their homelands into our world from the big bad known as the Adversary. Quick sum up of over 150 issues of a comic series. So this takes place both in our land, but in also the homelands, as like the Adversary was sort of invading all of these other places. And so we follow the Piper family, which Peter Piper comes from, like the one from all the nursery rhymes. Right. But then also Max Piper, who turns into the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Ah.
Yeah, so it sort of follows both of their stories simultaneously. And the sort of relationship between the two are, it's from the beginning, it's sort of like fraught with tension.
Right.
Because Peter is younger than Max. Max thinks, I think, far too highly of himself. And Peter is just sort of like a kid for a lot of this. And he doesn't really deserve the things he gets. And you slowly sort of start to realize that there's something very wrong with Max.
Right.
And, like, he has a very disturbing inner life.
Right.
That becomes more and more apparent as you read. And, like, it's, like, hardcore disturbing. Like, the original version of the Pied Piper of Hamelin is dark.
Yes.
Right? Like, that original version has the Pied Piper, like, dancing the kids out of town and they never come back.
Yeah.
And that's very much, like, the kind of character that you get in this. So
Right.
he is evil. He is dark. He is messed up.
Right.
And it was very disturbing to read, some of his parts. And, but the best thing about, like, the Fables universe is how Bill Willingham can kind of, like, take the stories that you know, these characters that you know, and then just be like, that, like, what you know of them was just one part of their life.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, Bo Peep is in here as well,
Oh, cool.
but she's actually an assassin. Like, she was, like, the little girl, little Bo Peep who lost her sheep, but she grows up to become an assassin. And then Peter himself, Peter Piper, grows up to become, like, a thief. And it's, that whole aspect is still perfect.
Right.
But the thing that I guess was sort of a letdown was the tone, the sort of pacing, because he kind of, like, waffles between a sort of normal narrative voice and then, like, a narrative voice that's very fairy tale in nature.
Right.
And I could never really reconcile the two as I was reading, because he kept flip-flopping between the two, and I couldn't tell what he was going for.
Right.
Eventually, the story took over, and the narrative is so good that I stopped noticing it until the very end. And, like, the big climactic moment, the thing is, I can see it in a comic, and it's amazing. As like a double-page spread, the big climactic moment, it takes up both pages, and you're just like, dang, that's good. In a book, though, it's only like a flash moment,
Right,
and then it's sort of dropped, and then you're done. And, yeah, so you can sort of see where, like, his strengths as a comics writer really took over, and then where maybe part of this would have been more enhanced but with the illustrations, like the rest of the comic series of Fables.
Right.
I didn't hate it. Not, like, far from hate it. I really enjoyed it. It was just overall kind of a letdown at the end.
That's fair.
Unfortunate. I still adore the Fables universe.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I guess,
Okay.
like, 3 out of 5 if I were to rate
That's
it.
fair.
It's a 3.5 maybe?
This is the one book I recommended that I hadn't read.
Right.
I've never read Fables, and I want to. But this is, I believe, Crystal's book?
Yes.
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 And that she also really likes Fables.
Yeah, and, like, they do a really good job of, like, bringing back, like, the original illustrator from some of the
cool.
the issues, so that you do still get that idea that it lives within the Fables world.
Right.
So you get things like that. So it's still great for those things.
Yeah.
But
So if you're, like, a big fan, it could still be valuable to this experience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know anything so much about the Fables universe, they do a really good job of, like, slowly just giving you, like, the briefest idea about what the idea is, and then being like, but we're not talking about the overall story, we're looking over here instead.
Cool.
So I think, yeah, anyone who really likes fairy tales should pick it up and give it a chance. I think I might just be too close to the subject matter for me to have, like, truly appreciated it, knowing how he writes as a comics writer.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, then. Book 3.
Book 3 was a hefty boy. Oh my god. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon.
It looks deceptively small.
I know, it looks small. It's not small. Like, there was a point where I was reading half of it as, like, an ebook, because I was on a trip and I was away, so I got it on an ebook and I was just reading it on my phone. And at one point I was like, okay, so much has happened at this point that, like, I gotta be more than halfway through. And I was, like, 41% of the way, and I was like, what else could happen? Oh my god. And I don't even know how, okay, so how do I even begin to describe this book?
It's a hard one to describe.
It's so hard. Okay, so it's like, it takes place in our world, but a future fantasy sci-fi version of our world where people are clairvoyant, so they have a variety of different powers associated with the mind. So telepathy, dream walking, things like that. These are just, like, little variations of how you can be a clairvoyant. And in our normal world, the clairvoyants are sort of seen as like secondary citizens, so they've sort of like gone underground. They can't really reveal that they have powers because there's like the English government at the very least, because that's where this takes place, and hunts them down. So they sort of have gone underground. They've made collectives and like groups together to sort of just survive. But then our main character Paige is taken by the government and then brought to a different place, and now she's told that clairvoyants are a good thing, but now they have to fight, and they are sort of now put into slavery, essentially, to like these other supreme beings. Indentured servitude to these supreme beings who have these same powers, but to like a much, much higher degree. And then like the revolution begins. It's, oh goodness, there's so much in here.
It's a big book, but a lot happens.
A lot happens, and that, I feel like it did a good job.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh my god, there's so much in here.
Did you like it?
I did. But again, I had an issue with the pacing, because there would be like moments where you spend like such a close examination of like a few days, and then suddenly it'd be like, and a month later I did this, and I was like, where did all that time go? Like, you can't like do like, look at things with a microscope and then do like a time jump of a month in the same book.
That makes sense, yeah.
So there was a bit of a weird tone shift every once in a while that happened. I feel like the character of Paige, though, is exceptional, because usually with books with like such a massive revolution like this, no offense, I kind of get annoyed with like the main
the chosen one.
The chosen one, exactly. I get kind of annoyed with them, but no, she was very real. Like she was smart, which I really appreciated. She knew when she had to sort of like bow and scrape to certain people, but for the most part, she still towed the line and really pushed it. And I respected that. I respected the hell out of her. Again, I did sort of call like the romance thing from the beginning. You can feel these things.
You can. I love that. I know a lot of people are anti the romance in here because it is a bit sketchy on the front of it.
It does, like you can see it coming, and at the exact same time, it still felt like it came out of the blue. Like there should have been, I think, more of a lead up there. But then again, you are sort of stuck in just Paige's point of view. So, I mean,
it's quite dramatic.
It's very dramatic. very swoon-worthy for those people who find it swoon-worthy.
If you like a slow burn.
But yeah, kind of. And I mean, kudos for it ending on like such a good note. Like not quite a cliffhanger, but like kind of a nice, now let's follow up what's going on, you know? Like
it kind of ended the episode, but also like, okay, next episode.
Exactly. If this was a Netflix series, it would have just been like next. Which I'm actually surprised this book has not been turned into like an HBO
It actually got picked
thing.
up before it was published. Andy Serkis's production company bought the rights to it even before it was published, but nothing's ever happened.
Oh. Yeah, because like as I was reading it, I was like, I mean, this feels like it should have already been made into something like The Magicians, like American Gods, things like that. Like it feels like it would fit so well with people who like those series, and I can't believe it hasn't been made yet.
I feel like even now, because this came out in, I think like 8 years ago, quite a while ago, so I feel like now is even like a more...
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, okay, so like 7 years? Math. 7 years ago. 2019. 6 years ago. I can't try. But anyway.
We're gonna cut that.
I think even now the landscape of TV is more, like, they should put this out now.
Yeah, strike while the iron is hot, because this could totally follow up with like the Game of Thrones crowd too. Yeah. Since we just finished that, like this would be the perfect thing to like pick up and be like, okay, here you go, guys.
Now I will say to you, I know you've said in our last video that you like short series.
I know. How many books is this one?
This many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I think it's 6 or 7.
No.
And there's only 3 out. 2 out? 3 out. There's only 3 out. But they're real good. The second one is my favorite.
Testing my stamina here.
The second one's my favorite. It's even longer than this one. But you get to go back to London and like live that crime lord life.
Okay, I think I would like that then, because I mean it did feel like after a while all this stuff was like a little tedious, but like I mean that's what she was feeling too, right?
In the second book, which is called
The Mime
Order. Thank you. it is the best fighting scene I've ever read.
And she writes very good action sequences.
Yeah, she writes really good action sequences, but it's like a chapter long fight. Whoa. And like for me it would be normally too much because it's kind of this competition thing. And it's very brutal. And there's like mind powers, but it's just so well written. I'm like, this needs to be turned into something. Like it's just, again,
I'm surprised it hasn't been, but I'm sure it'll
hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon.
I'm glad that somebody I know has finally read this book. Because I've been telling people to read it for so long.
Now I have to see if I have the strength to.
I won't blame you if you don't read the rest of them, but
I'd like to. I mean, I've started, so like,
yeah, who knows?
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
TBD.
I listened to the audiobook. So.
Oh, that might be a good one. Okay, I might do that.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, so final book.
Finished it last night because I'm a procrastinator.
You did it though.
Scythe by Neil Shusterman.
Yeah.
God, this was a good one.
Yeah.
This was like a 5 out of 5 right out the gate. It was good from the moment that I started this book. I was like, I am into this. I am buckling in. I'm ready for whatever ride comes ahead. It is good. So again, I feel like everyone already knows what this book is about, but it's set in a dystopian, utopian world where humanity has eradicated all disease, illness, and death itself. So people just live forever. They can like reverse their time and go back to a younger age and just go on forever if they want to. So to sort of keep a cap on the population, the humanity, or is it like the sort of cloud thing that sort of takes over the Thunderhead?
It's like a cloud, the Thunderhead.
Yeah. So the Thunderhead is like this like AI system that sort of oversees the entire world and makes sure that everyone lives correctly and lives well. Like there's not a huge difference between like the rich and the poor. I mean, there is still a difference, but it's if you're still on like the lower end of that strata, you're still surviving. Just
healthy.
You're healthy. You have enough food. You're surviving along just fine. But the Thunderhead is sort of allowed the creation of these group of people called Scythes, who are reapers. They go off and they kill people, glean people, to sort of keep a cap on the population. And then these two teens are taken in by this one Scythe and brought in to be his apprentice, but only one of them will become a Scythe in the end. And that's sort of the basic premise of it. And oh, she was good. Oh my god. I read it in 2 days, which again, I'm a slow reader. That does not happen. I read it in 2 days.
It's a chunky book. It's like 500 pages.
Yeah, again, she big. But it was damn good. And again, I can't believe it's been so long since this book has been out, and this is just my life. I don't pick up things when they're popular. I pick them up years later.
Well, the third one's coming out. We're doing a special edition of it.
So we are. I know. I have heard that, and I'm excited, and I'm going to read the Thunderhead before the Toll comes out. Or I think it's just Thunderhead.
Thunderhead, yeah.
Thunderhead before the Toll comes out, and I'm going to be there because this was so good. And I loved the ending of it. Oh my god.
I think he does, like, I think a lot of us kind of got sick of dystopian for a while, and I think this does it in the same way. This is an adult book, so it's a bit different. Yeah. But these two books do dystopia in such a different way.
Yes.
That it doesn't feel like it's something we've read before.
Absolutely. Especially with Scythe. Again, like, I worked as a bookseller, a teen bookseller, at the height of the Hunger Games and like Divergent
Maze Runner,
hype.
all those stuff.
Maze Runner, yes. I was a bookseller then, and like just like selling out those things. But so I thought I had seen like the rise and fall of the dystopian utopia, right? And then Neil comes out of the blue and is like, okay, but how about
Just
this?
kidding,
and I was like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. And I think also maybe one of the most disturbing things I've discovered about myself while reading this, I feel like I might be a good Scythe. I feel like I might have what it took to be a Scythe, or takes to be a Scythe.
Go get that apprenticeship, girl.
Get that apprenticeship. Which maybe I shouldn't be saying on camera, that I feel like I'd be good at gleaning people, but I feel like I would be.
It's power.
It's not just power, but it's also like understanding, and that's like the whole morality issue that sort of surrounds Scythe, right? Like, this is a thing that needs to happen. People do still need to fear death, because while, you know, they've essentially eradicated it, it's still an inevitability for, I would imagine, everyone at some point.
You would think.
You would think. I mean, it could be tomorrow, or it could be hundreds of years down the road, but I mean, inevitably, assuming you would still die somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like I would understand that sort of like moral dilemma of like where that line is.
Yeah.
Also, the villains in this are downright diabolical, like scary levels of diabolical. When like they have that first scene where they do a mass gleaning, essentially.
Yeah.
That is horrifying. It was horrifying, and I felt sort of like the immediate panic and fear that like the people in that moment also did, because like the narrative sort of shifted perspective to one of the people who was just there being like, wait, is this actually happening? And I was just like, wait, is this actually happening? And it was good. I was so impressed. I was so involved. I loved the ending, and I can't wait to see what goes on next. So I'm definitely following this series now.
Well, so happy that you find at least one 5-star in there.
Yes. Sorry. I apparently am hard to please, but I enjoyed all of these. There's not a single one of these I was just like, boo,
throw
2
it
thumbs
away.
down. Absolutely none of these. But Scythe was my favorite.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for reading those books. I'm so happy. I'm going to talk to you about them now. And right after this, you're going to be filming recommending some books to Ave.
Yes, I am.
Which will be really fun to see. I have no idea what you're going to recommend to her. So
I don't know either. Stay tuned.
That video will be up later in the week, so stay tuned for that. But I think we can wrap it up.
Sounds good.
Alright guys, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe for more. Happy reading and thanks for being awesome. Bye!
Bye!